It's the morning of Saturday, August the 1st, 2026. We're heading out over the bar at the River Deben. Myself and Anne-Marie, the Commodore, I expect to be at the bar at about 9:50. The morning Stena line on its way to Holland, out through the harbour entrance, passing Bordsea now, Felixstowe ferry on the other side, and just coming past a fine Legend 31 bilge keeler with 1.2 metres draft that actually, especially on the morning tides in late summer at the Deben bar, she can come and go at low water, even at low water springs. The morning low waters aren't as low as the afternoon ones. It changes around from earlier on in the season. Time to change from the Bordsea northeast side of the channel over towards the Felixstowe ferry side to avoid those really nasty shoals that have grown on the east side of the channel, where several boats have come to grief. And you can see just near the buoy there, the Knoll Spit buoy, much more dangerous on the ebb, because then there's a strong current flowing over them on the ebb and near high water, which is when most people tend to come and go, because then those shoals are covered and you can be swept eastwards on the ebb onto them. At least 5 boats have been significant high water strandings this year. So it's over to within 60 metres of the Felixstowe ferry side until we're past the Martello Tower U there on the charts and chartlet. Youth sailing coming out at Felixstowe Ferry Sailing Club. They're very active youth section, which is hopeful for the future of all sailing at the club. Plodding on down the Felixstowe ferry side of the channel, our speed over ground has dropped to 2.6. I don't know if you can see on our handheld GPS. Plenty of water, although we're still fairly early in the spring tide. It's really filled in now, must be about 3 knots flowing. To push us down to speed over ground at 2.6 knots. If you leave it later, after half tide, then at springs the flood tide is ferocious. You have your engine flogging away full throttle, getting nowhere fast. We're keeping to the Felixstowe ferry side of the channel to avoid the shoal, and you can see the port hand buoy there and the starboard hand buoy further out. Those 2 buoys really give no guidance whatsoever for avoiding those dangerous shoals. You really need your own waypoints or the dreaded local knowledge. The local knowledge required isn't so much local knowledge of the port and the haven, as much as local knowledge as to the vagaries of the buoyage system, which don't really conform to any accepted standard. It'd be quite reasonable if you're coming in to expect to be able to turn for the river entrance at the second buoy there, which is the starboard hand buoy. But never mind, it's been like that for years and probably go on like that. So we're sticking close to the Felixstowe ferry side, for a while yet. Passing Martello Tower U, well away from those shoals that intrude into the channel very significantly this year, squeezing the channel down to only about less than 200 metres wide, possibly 150 metres. And coming up to the buoys. Now here the buoys do provide a purpose, because when the first buoy we see there, the Knoll Spit buoy, is pretty well in line with the next one, the starboard hand buoy, then and only then is it safe to turn away from the shore, which, as you'll see, we're still sticking very close to. We in fact are going by our GPS handheld waypoints, which tell us to turn out, and there are the buoys ahead. So now you can use the voyage in a conventional manner. We're going to leave the Knoll Spit port hand buoy close to starboard as we're going out, and the what's that one? That's the Deben starboard hand buoy close to port. Coming up past Knoll Spit buoy, at least it looks like a port hand buoy this year. Previous years, the starboard hand buoys were square, and the port hand buoys had tapering shape markers on them, which seemed a bit bizarre. So that's an improvement. And the that's the Deben buoy, straight ahead, starboard hand buoy. Which is a can-shaped buoy with I've got it in the shot. Sorry about that. A can-shaped buoy with a conical top mark. Deben buoy, starboard hand buoy. As we're going out, we're leaving it to port. You might have heard a beep. That was our waypoint on our handheld GPS. You've got a visible shoal over there, and disturbed water indicating shallow water over there. We're coming up to the port hand buoy, the West Knoll buoy, and then the bar itself is somewhere between that and the Mid-Knoll buoy, which is the one further south. The naming doesn't help either. It's completely just a kind of look-up list. You just have to learn where they are. It's different every year. Mid-Knoll buoy coming up to starboard. The channel's at its narrowest here. You can see that there's not much water depth, just about less than 50 metres over there. Now we're going off to the south towards the Naze, which you might be able to see there. We're going to Walton, and we're coming up to our turning point, and we'll turn to starboard, which you can do shortly after the West Knoll buoy that we've left behind. Don't have to go out as far as anywhere near the Mid-Knoll buoy. Okay, come straight round to the arrow, please. Come round to the arrow, please. That's our own waypoint for an approach along the coast. Now we're coming up to the bar now. You can just see the water disturbed there. My calculation is I think we got 1.52 metres of rise, and the surge, which I looked up latest, was about 2.26 for a metre. So that's 1.78 metres, and then we probably have about 0.4 of a metre here. so that would be about 2.2 metres. We're reading 2.1 metres on our depth sounder. In fact, that underreads 2.1. Our depth sounder underreads by about 0.1 of a metre. We ground at about 1.7, whereas in fact we draw 1.8. So we've passed over the bar. It's going, the bottom's going down now, with 0.3, 0.4 of a metre under our keel, which is just as we like. You can see this early in the tide. There's no disturbed water over the bar. You can find your way out easily. There's no fearsome currents going across the sandbanks, sweeping you to disaster. And the flood tide is only about half the strength it gets to in the second half of the flood. You're kind of 2 hours, 1 hour before high water. So now we're off on a day outing, if there's enough wind, if we can get there, to Walton Frinton Yacht Club for fish and chips lunch. Thank you very much.